Hare Krishna devotees, welcome to day 90 of our Bhakti Vaibhava seminar on Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, and we are in chapter 30, titled The Activities of the Prachetas. Let us begin by chanting our prayers. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pastyatya Deshatarane Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadha Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindubhya eva cha, patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Okay, so here we go. Verses 39 and 40. Dear Lord, we've studied the Vedas, accepted a spiritual master, and offered respect to Brahmins, advanced devotees, and aged personalities who are spiritually very advanced. We have offered our respects to them, and we have not been envious of any brother, friends, or anyone else. We have also undergone severe austerities within the water, and have not taken food for a long time. All these spiritual assets of ours are simply offered for your satisfaction. We pray for this benediction only and nothing more. Right, so here we go, devotees. Let's go through the purport, Srila Prabhupada's purport. He begins by saying, as stated in Srimad Bhagavatam, Samsiddhya Haritoshanam. It's Bhagavatam 1-13. The real perfection of life is pleasing the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, we have to understand the Lord, and one who has naturally surrenders unto him after many births, and we find these qualifications are there in the Prachetas. They did austerities and penances in the water. They didn't eat for a long time, and they didn't do this for any material benedictions, but just to please the Lord. And the idea is you can sort of do anything, material or spiritual, but it must be for the Lord. So this verse actually, Prabhupada says, presents a perfect picture of Vedic civilization. That people who are being trained to be devotees should be respectful not just to the Lord, but also those who are elderly in knowledge, who are actual devotees, who are Aryans. Yeah, okay. So Srila Prabhupada then goes on to focus on the subject of Aryans and Aryan culture. That an Aryan is someone who doesn't boast about their culture, but they're actually devotees. Aryan means advanced. Yeah. Prabhupada quotes Bhagavad Gita chapter 2 verse 2. I'll just read the translation. The Supreme Person, Bhagavan, said, my dear Arjuna, how have these impurities come upon you? They're not at all befitting a man who knows the progressive values of life. They do not lead to infamy. But they do not lead to higher planets, but to infamy. So this is all about Arjuna acting like a non-Aryan. Yeah. Aryan does his duty. Doesn't matter what it is. Fight, not fight. If it's sanctioned by the Lord, the Aryan does it. And the Aryans, of course, are not inimical to anyone. They don't maintain slaughterhouses. They're never the enemies of poor animals. Right, so, second paragraph, Prabhupada says, the word nirandasam means without food. And Prabhupada explains eating voraciously and unnecessarily is not the business of an Aryan. Eating should be restricted as far as possible. When Aryans eat, they eat only prescribed eatables. And Prabhupada quotes Bhagavad Gita 9:26, Patram Pushpam Palam Toyam, famous verse. If one offers me with love and devotion a leaf, flower, fruit, or water, I will accept it. So in this way, there are restrictions for Aryans in regards to eating. Prabhupada concludes the purport by saying, although the Lord himself can eat anything and everything, he restricts himself to vegetables, fruits, milk, and so on. This verse thus describes the activities of those who claim to be Aryans. Verse 41. Dear Lord, even great yogis and mystics who are very much advanced by virtue of austerities and knowledge, and who have completely situated themselves in pure existence, as well as great personalities like Manu, Lord Brahma, and Lord Shiva. So even these people, the great yogis and mystics, even Manu, Brahma, Shiva, they cannot fully understand your glories and potencies. Nonetheless, they have offered their prayers according to their own capacities. In the same way, we, although much lower than these personalities, also offer our prayers according to our own capability. So first point Prabhupada makes is that these different people mentioned just in the verse itself, Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, etc., they have elevated themselves to the transcendental level through austerities and penance and devotional service, but they're imperfect in knowledge compared to the Lord. And this is the case with everyone in the material world. No one can be equal to the Lord in anything. So anyone's prayer to the Lord is always incomplete. You can't measure him. He's unlimited. Even Anantashesh can't describe his glories completely, even though he's been trying for a long time. Still he couldn't find the limit. And the second paragraph, still despite this fact that who can glorify or appreciate the Lord completely? Nobody can. But despite that, still anyone who's doing devotional service can offer nice prayers to the Lord. Everyone's in a relative position. No one's perfect in glorifying the Lord. But as far as we're able, we should offer prayers with heart and soul, as far as we can appreciate him. And that will be our perfection, actually. Even when one is in the darkest region of ignorance, he can still offer prayers according to his capacity. And the Lord says in Bhagavad Gita, 9:32. Important verse. Mamhi patha vyapasritya yepisu papayonaya striya vaishas tata shudras tepiyanti paramgatim. O son of Prita, those who take shelter in me, though they be of lower birth, women, Vaishyas, as well as Sudras, can approach the supreme destination. So then there is a third paragraph, that if one seriously accepts the lotus feet of the Lord, he becomes purified by the grace of the Lord and the grace of the Lord's servant. This is confirmed by Shukadev Goswami in Srimad Bhagavatam 2:4-18. Anyway, Prabhupada then concludes the purport by saying, one who's brought under the lotus feet of the Lord by the endeavor of the Lord's servant, the spiritual master, is certainly immediately purified, however low-born he may be. He becomes eligible to return home back to Godhead. So right on we go to verse 42. Dear Lord, you have no enemies or friends. Therefore you're equal to everyone. You cannot be contaminated by sinful activities, and your transcendental form is always beyond the material creation. You're the Supreme Personality of Godhead because you remain everywhere within all existence. You're consequently known as Vasudev. We offer you our respectful obeisances. So in the purport right at the beginning, Prabhupada clarifies this point about the Lord being known as Vasudev because he remains everywhere within all existence. So Vas means to live. Yeah. And Prabhupada refers to Brahma Samhita verse 35, Ekopya so rachaitum jagadanda kotim. The Lord, through his plenary portion, enters into each and every universe to create the material manifestation. Yes, Vas, he lives everywhere. He's also in every heart and every atom. Paramanu chayantarastam. So because he lives everywhere, he's known as Vasudev. Although he lives everywhere in the material world, he's not contaminated by the modes. Therefore he's described in Ishopanishad as apapa vidham. So when he comes, he does things that would be sometimes that would be considered sinful, like killing people, but he's never contaminated. Therefore he's described as Shuddha, means always free from contamination. He's also described as Sama, he's equal to everyone. And he says in Bhagavad Gita 9:21, Samoham sarvabhuteshu name dvesha asti na priyaha. The Lord has no one as his friend or everyone, he's equal to everyone. Second paragraph, the term Satvaya indicates the form of the Lord is not material. It's Satchitananda Vigraha. Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchitananda Vigraha. That's of course Brahma Samhita verse 1. Prabhupada concludes the purport by saying, his body is different from our material bodies. One should not think that the Supreme Personality of Godhead has a material body like ours. Okay, that's the end of that section. We go on to section 6, which is just one verse, verse 43, the next verse, which we've titled, "The Lord Departs." Verse 43, the great sage Maitreya continued, "My dear Vidura, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who's the protector of surrendered souls, being thus addressed by the Prachetas and worshipped by them, replied, 'May whatever you've prayed for be fulfilled.' After saying this, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, whose prowess is never defeated, left. The Prachetas were unwilling to be separated from him because they had not seen him to their full satisfaction." So Srila Prabhupada begins the purport by saying the word anapavarga virya is significant in this verse. The word ana means without, pavarga means the materialistic way of life, and virya means prowess. So in other words, he's got prowess which is without or beyond the materialistic way of life. So Prabhupada mentions further, his prowess always contains the 6 opulences, one of which is renunciation. And although the Prachetas wanted to see him to their full satisfaction, still the Lord left. Srila Jiva Goswami says that this is an exhibition of his kindness to innumerable other devotees. He had to leave so he could go and see others. But having said that, he was really attracted by the Prachetas, but still he left. This is the opulence of renunciation. And Prabhupada gives the example of Lord Chaitanya when he stayed with Advaita Acharya after taking sannyas. All the devotees came. They wanted him to stay some days longer, but still Lord Chaitanya just left. Yes, without hesitation. Prabhupada concludes the purport by saying, the conclusion is that although the Supreme Lord has unlimited kindness for his devotees, he's not attached to anyone. He's equally kind to his innumerable devotees all over the creation. Okay, so devotees, on we go. Next section is verses 44 and 45, which we've titled, "The Prachetas Become Angry at the Trees." So even though it's just 2 verses, I'm going to read them first of all and then go back to them and their purports. Thereafter all the Prachetas emerged from the waters of the sea. They then saw that all the trees on land had grown very tall, as if to obstruct the path to the heavenly planets. These trees had covered the entire surface of the world. At this time the Prachetas became very angry. 45. My dear king, at the time of devastation, Lord Shiva emits fire and air from his mouth out of anger. To make the surface of the earth completely treeless, the Prachetas also emitted fire and air from their mouths, because they're feeling angry that the trees have just, got carried away and overgrown the place. So, okay, let's go through again. 44. Thereafter all the Prachetas emerged from the waters of the sea. They then saw that all the trees on land had grown very tall, as if to obstruct the path to the heavenly planets. These trees had covered the entire surface of the world. At this time the Prachetas became very angry. So Prabhupada begins by explaining that Prachana Bharishat had left home before his sons had come back after their austerities. So then the Brachettas were ordered by the Lord to come out of the water and go and take care of the kingdom. But when they came out, they saw everything neglected in the absence of their father. Food grains were not being produced, there were no agricultural activities, and the surface of the earth was covered with trees. And it seemed that the trees wanted to stop people going to the heavenly planets. Therefore the Brachettas became very angry, because they wanted the land to be cleared to produce crops. So Srila Prabhupada makes, in the second paragraph, Prabhupada makes a very interesting point, that it is not a fact that jungles and trees attract clouds and rain because we find rainfall over the sea. Humans can live anywhere by clearing jungles and converting land for agriculture. And if people keep cows, then all economic problems will be solved. You just need to produce grains and take care of cows. That's all. And the wood in the jungle can be used for building cottages and housing. Yes. So in this way, the economic problems can all be solved. Humanity's economic problems. Why not? So actually, even now, there's so much vacant land on earth. There's so much. If you just drive up from Durban to Johannesburg, you see there's so much land which is not being used. So, but anyway, rain doesn't really just come from jungles and trees, but rain comes from yajna, from sacrifice. That's explained in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 3, verse 14. Anad bhavanti bhutani parjanyadana sambhava, yagyad bhavati parjanyo yagya karma samudbhava. Krishna says, all living bodies subsist on food grains, which are produced from rains. Rains are produced by performance of yajna, sacrifice, and yajna is born of prescribed duties. So, in other words, if humanity just gets into doing sacrifice, they will have sufficient rain and crops. Okay, so let's go on, devotees, to verse 45. My dear king, at the time of devastation, Lord Shiva emits fire and air from his mouth out of anger to make the surface of the earth completely treeless. The Brachettas also emitted fire and air from their mouths. All right, so let's have a look at the purport. It's just a short purport. So here Vidura is addressed as Rajan, O king. So in this regard, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that a Dhira never becomes angry because he always engages in devotional service. And advanced devotees, they can control their senses. So therefore the devotee can be addressed as Rajan. Prabhupada concludes the purport by saying, a king controls and rules in various ways among citizens. Similarly, one who can control his senses is the king of his senses. He's a Swami or Goswami. The Swamis and Goswamis are therefore sometimes addressed as Maharaj or king. Interesting. Section 8, Lord Brahma pacifies the Brachettas. It's just one verse, verse 46. After seeing that all the trees on the surface of the earth were being turned to ashes, Lord Brahma immediately came to the sons of King Barhishman and pacified them with words of logic. Right, so there's another short purport here. Prabhupada explains that when something extraordinary happens on earth, Lord Brahma may come to control the situation. Yes. He also came when Hiranyakashipu was doing his austerities and the whole universe was disturbed. So, a responsible man in any establishment, Prabhupada says, is always alert to keep peace and harmony there. So Prabhupada concludes the purport by saying, similarly, Lord Brahma is also allowed to keep peace and harmony within this universe. He consequently pacified the sons of King Barhishman with good logic. So on we go, devotees. The next section is just one verse, again verse 47, which we've titled, "The Trees Offer Their Daughter to the Prachetas." Okay, so, all right. So verse 47, the remaining trees, being very much afraid of the Prachetas, immediately delivered their daughter at the advice of Lord Brahma. Yeah, so this girl, daughter of the trees, was referred to in verse 13. If you go back, we read that through that part a couple of days ago. She was born of Canto and Pramlocha, who was a society girl from the heavenly planet sent by Lord Indra, because Canto seemed to be becoming too powerful. So she gave birth to the daughter and then just left. And the child is now motherless. But then the king of the moon was compassionate, put his finger in her mouth, and in this way saved her, because nectar came from his finger, and that saved her. And then when she grew up, by Lord Brahma's order, she was given to the Prachetas as a wife. Her name was Marisa, as the Marisha, as the next verse says. So she was handed over to the Prachetas by the predominating deity of the trees. Srila Jiva Goswami, because the verse says that the trees handed her over, but Jiva Goswami says Vriksha tad adishtatra devata. The trees means the controlling deity of those trees. And Vedic literatures, of course, they talk of controlling deities of all sorts of things, of water, mountains, and here trees. So Prabhupada concludes the purport by saying, the Prachetas were engaged in burning all the trees to ashes, and they considered the trees their enemies. To pacify the Prachetas, the predominating deity of the trees, under the advice of Lord Brahma, delivered the daughter Marisha. So, okay, next section is, last section actually, Daksha becomes the son of the Prachetas, from verse 48 to verse 51. Let's just read through the verses. Following the order of Lord Brahma, all the Prachetas accepted the girl as their wife. From the womb of this girl, the son of Lord Brahma named Daksha took birth. Daksha had to take birth from the womb of Marisha due to his disobeying and disrespecting Lord Mahadev, Shiva. Consequently, he had to give up his body twice. 49. His previous body had been destroyed, but he, the same Daksha, inspired by the supreme will, created all the desired living entities in the Chakshusha Manvantara. Verses 50 and 51. After being born, Daksha, by the super excellence of his bodily luster, covered all others' bodily opulence, because he was very expert in performing fruitive activity. He was called by the name Daksha, meaning the very expert. Lord Brahma therefore engaged Daksha in the work of generating living entities and maintaining them. In due course of time, Daksha also engaged other progenitors, in the process of generation and maintenance. Okay, I see. All right, so where are we? 48. Following the order of Lord Brahma, all the progenitors accepted the girl as their wife. From the womb of this girl, the son of Brahma named Daksha took birth. Daksha had to take birth from the womb of Marisha due to his disobeying and disrespecting Lord Mahadev, Shiva. Consequently, he had to give up his body twice. Okay. So Prabhupada makes the point that, in the purport here, that in this connection the word Mahad Avagyanat is significant. Maha Avagyanat means because of disrespecting a great personality. Yeah. So anyway, that's Daksha, of course. He was the son of Lord Brahma, but he offended Lord Shiva. We all know the story. That was at the beginning of this 4th canto. So he had to take birth from a Kshatriya. Therefore, he became the son of the Prachetas. Not only that, but he had to undergo the tribulation of taking birth from within the womb of a woman. So therefore, after being killed by Virabhadra in the Daksha Yajna arena, he took birth from Marisha. But then after praying to Lord Shiva, he received opulence by Shiva's grace. So these are all subtle laws of material nature. People don't know about these things. There's no knowledge of the transmigration of the soul. So the society is in greatest ignorance. Prabhupada concludes the purport by saying, because of this, it is said in the Bhagavatam 1.1.10, Mandasu mandamatayo mandabhagya hupadrata. The total population in this age of Kali Yuga is very bad, lazy, unfortunate, and disturbed by material conditions. So on we go, devotees, to verse 49. Right, verse 49. His previous body had been destroyed, but he, the same Daksha, inspired by the supreme will, created all the desired living entities in the Chakshusha Manvantara. So, there's the purport here. Prabhupada quotes Bhagavad Gita, chapter 8, verse 17. Sahasra Yuga Paryantam Aharyad Brahmano Vidu. By human calculation, 1,000 ages means cycles of the 4 yugas taken together is the duration of Brahma's one day, and it's also the duration of his night. So in one of the days of Brahma, there are 14 manus, and, well, let's just read through the list. Number 1 is Swayambhuva, number 2 is Swarochisha, 3 is Uttama, 4 is Tamasa, 5 Raivata, 6 Chakshusha, 7 Vaivasvata, 8 Sarvarani, 9 Daksha Sarvani, 10 Brahma Sarvani, 11 Dharma Sarvani, 12 Rudra Sarvani, 13 Deva Sarvani, and 14 Indra Sarvarni. That's interesting, isn't it? So many Sarvarnis. So anyway, in a year of Brahma, well, Prabhupada in the following purport gets into the details of these manus and how the whole system works, etc. Let's just run through a bit. In a year of Brahma, in a year, there are 5,040 manus. During his life, there are 504,000 in one universe, and there are innumerable universes. So, Prabhupada refers to Brahma Samhita verse 48, which refers to Brahma as Jagadandanatha. There are innumerable Jagadandanatha Brahmas, so we cannot calculate how many Brahmas there are. Present Manu, how many Manus there are. Present Manu is Vaivasvata. Each Manu lives 4,320,000 times 71 years. The current one has lived 4,320,000 times 28. But anyway, despite the length of life, they all die. The Daksha Yagya controversy happened in the Swayambhuva Manvantara. As a result, Daksha was punished by Lord Shiva, but then he prayed to Shiva, and he became eligible to regain his former opulence. So Prabhupada concludes the purport by saying, according to Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Daksha underwent severe penances up to the 5th Manvantara. Thus, at the beginning of the 6th Manvantara, known as the Chakshusha Manvantara, Daksha regained his former opulence by the blessings of Lord Shiva. So on we go to the final 2 verses together, verse 50 and verse 51. After being born, Daksha, by the super excellence of his bodily luster, covered all others' bodily opulence. Because he was very expert in performing fruitive activity, he was called by the name Daksha, meaning the very expert. Lord Brahma therefore engaged Daksha in the work of generating living entities and maintaining them. In course of time, Daksha also engaged other progenitors, in the process of generation and maintenance of population. So there's very short purport here. Let's just read it. Daksha became almost as powerful as Lord Brahma. Consequently, Lord Brahma engaged him in generating population. Daksha was very influential and opulent. In his own term, Daksha engaged other Prajapatis headed by Marichi. In this way, the population of the universe increased. So that's the end of chapter 30, devotees. Tomorrow we'll start with 31, which is the last chapter in the Canto. Hare Krishna, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.